Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today, we're going to tackle an artist that I know many of you have been asking for the last couple of years. And it's an artist I like quite a bit. I've been kind of putting off doing this one because he's got such a rich discography with so many great tunes. In fact, David Bowie, all right, I know a lot of you Brits say David Bowie, but David Bowie to all us Americans. Sometimes it's one of those artists that you almost take for granted and forget just how many great songs and great albums he actually had. So, generally what I do when I put together these top 10 song shows is I go through like all the albums, at least the albums that I own that I'm familiar with. And I go through like track by track just to kind of refamiliarize myself because, you automatically you have songs that are your favorites. But sometimes, especially with an artist like him, there's so many favorites that you have to go and kind of re-listen and compare and say, all right, do I prefer this one over that one, right? And this one over that one, and this one over that one. And then, you're putting together your list. Some songs come, some songs go. And so I agonized over this list. And, now that I've got a list of 10, I probably could have easily done a top 20. But I figure, I've got a pretty full honorable mentions list. What's amazing to me, too, is that when it was all said and done, most of my top 10, not most, a good chunk of my top 10 are more kind of album cuts and not like the radio staples. I do have a few radio staples in here, but while I do like a lot of the big radio hits a lot, it just really dawned on me. And again, this is, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, that's kind of the way I normally go. I'm more of a deep cuts guy. I love the hits, but I'm more of a deep cuts guy. It's just in my DNA. It's the way I'm built. I just, so many of his radio hits and greatest hits and all that concert staples, I do love a lot, but they didn't make my list. And I kind of agonized over that because some of his, more hit material are really great songs. Obviously, they're great for a reason, right? But he's got some equally as good, if not better, deep album cuts. And a lot of my list is made up of those. So I'm going to go through. Again, if you don't hear your favorites on my list, doesn't mean I don't like it. All right? And everybody, just watch the whole video first. I get so many people who I get to my top 10 songs and I announce the honorable mentions, and they're already typing, Pete, I can't believe you left out this. Pete, I can't believe you left out this. What about this? What about this? Listen to the whole video. Watch the whole video first, all right? Because chances are I'm probably going to mention it. If I don't, I can't mention every single song. Doesn't mean I don't like it, all right? So if you got your favorites, that's fine. These are my favorites. These are not the 10 best David Bowie songs of all time, all right? There's no way to do that, all right? Because everybody hears things differently. These are just my favorites, all right? So if you don't hear yours, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's get on with it. So, coming in at number 10, from The Man Who Sold the World, which is possibly my favorite David Bowie album, or it's top 3 easily, a song called She Shook Me Cold. Some of you are probably wondering, what the hell is that? I don't know that song. It's a great tune. If you like the heavier, more rockin' version of Bowie's catalog, that is kind of like, David Bowie early on, kind of the glammy stuff meets like Black Sabbath. Really heavy, some great Mick Ronson guitar work. It's just such a kick-ass cranking tune. I've always dug that song a lot from an album that I really enjoy quite a bit. So She Shook Me Cold, coming in at number 10. Coming in at number 9, I'm going to go to the Station to Station album, which I love quite a bit. I know a lot of people really dig that album. That's kind of like, he's got a lot of oddities in his catalog. And the great thing about Bowie is like every album is so different. That's why they always called him like the musical chameleon, because like from album to album, the style and sound and flavors are totally different. No two albums are exactly alike. And Station to Station, another really different one. And my number 9 track from that album is a song called Stay. It's just got these great kind of funky soul R&B driven guitar riffs. Earl Slick and Carlos Alomar, and it's got this kind of groove to it I just absolutely love. He did a lot of really groovy tunes, and there were just so many that I really love that just couldn't make it onto this list. I'll get some of the honorable mentions, but Stay from Station to Station, a great album, a great song, coming in at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we're going to go to the Let's Dance album, which for me was, I think, that was probably the beginning of when I really got into David Bowie. And of course, with that album, because that was a huge album, especially here in the US, and that prompted me to go really investigate the back catalog. So from that album, I'm going to go with Cat People. Been putting out fires, folks. I just dig it. It's just got this mysterious vibe to it. It's kind of funky, right? It's got some killer Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar licks in it. Just a great tune. And there's a lot of great songs from that album, but that's easily my favorite. Coming in at number 7, we're going to go to Hunky Dory. How about Life on Mars? Gorgeous. I mean, that chorus gets me every time. I love it. It's a great song, but I love it just for the chorus. The chorus is just like genius. Love it. So memorable. So memorable. Every time I hear that, it's just like that tune just like kind of picks you up and takes you away. You just kind of like drift into the cosmos to that song. Great, great stuff. Coming in at number 6 from Aladdin Sane, which might be my favorite David Bowie album. It's definitely up there. Like, I have my 3 favorites. That's definitely one of them. Ironically, I wish I could have fit more songs from that album on this top 10 list. But again, he's got so many great albums, so many great songs. Can't fit them all. Cracked Actor. It just cannot be understated how perfect together David Bowie and Mick Ronson were. And Mick Ronson, what an underrated guitar player. I mean, his chunky, jagged, fuzzy riffs in that song are just killer. Bowie's vocals are killer. It's a great tune. It's got a great lyric. Man, a great album. A really great album. Legendary album. Cracked Actor from Aladdin Sane. Coming in at number 5, going to go back to Station to Station. Oh, my TVC15. Oh, TVC15. I have always loved that song. Always loved it. There's just something about it. Again, the chorus is just killer. And it's just a great kind of futuristic rocker. It's got a little bit of groove, and it's just a very, very cool tune. It's got like that kind of like electronic pulse going through it. The whole album actually does. Great, great song. TVC15. Coming in at number 4. I debated putting this one so high, but the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, it's just such a great tune. It's one of his best anthems ever. And Heroes. From the album of the same name. We can be heroes just for one day, folks. Great tune. Great tune. It's got my man Robert Fripp on guitar too, which kind of helps, right? All right, my top 3 were no doubters. I debated over the rest of the list, but my top 3 were absolute no doubters. We're going to go to number 3 to the Ziggy Stardust, Spiders from Mars, Moon Age Daydream. Love it. That's like hard rock and glam at its best, folks. Doesn't get any better than that. Reach out in a Moon Age Daydream. Oh, yeah. Great tune. Love it. I love that whole album, too. Coming in at number 2, we're going to go back to The Man Who Sold the World. Another of Bowie's harder rockin' tunes that just pummels. I love it. It's just kind of like a fast-paced rocker. It's got some inventive riffing from Ronson. Great rhythms from the rest of the Spiders. The Width of a Circle. Well, actually, it's before the Spiders were the Spiders, so I shouldn't even say that. But The Width of a Circle, another one of those great album openers, right? Kicks ass. Love it, love it, love it. Love that album. So cool. It's amazing, that Bowie went from that first album. Well, it's not actually his first album, but and then, which is mostly acoustic and folky, and then went to the Man Who Sold the World. It's like, you go from Space Oddity to The Man Who Sold the World, and they're so completely different. It's just like The Man Who Sold the World came out of left field. It's just crazy stuff. My number 1 is a very cool tune. It's one of his more epic tunes. It's from an album that I've mentioned already that I dig quite a bit, and I like more and more as I kind of get on in years. I just think it's a really cool album, and again, that was just so different at the time. Fairly groundbreaking. This preceded the those Berlin years, but how about the title track, To Station to Station? And I love how that song is like kind of two songs in one. Like the first half is like kind of goes at a certain pace, and then it kicks into high gear, and then it's like a completely different song. And both parts are equally amazing, but different for different reasons. Station to Station, love it, love it, love it. And it's amazing. You listen to that song, and then you look at the length, and you're like, that was 10 minutes? Man, that went by quick. That's a mark of a good song. Can take you through an epic length and make you not even realize how long you're listening, right? Absolute perfection. So let's take a look at my enormous list of honorable mentions, all right? Again, if I don't mention your favorites, I'm sorry. I can't mention every single song from every album. I just tried to pick the ones that really mean the most to me. And there's a couple albums that I really don't go into, like some of the early 90s stuff. I don't have a couple of, there's like 2 or 3 albums I don't have. And then I haven't heard the most recent one he put out before he passed away. So there's going to be some stuff missing here, but these are, I have the majority of them. So we're going to go back to Space Oddity. Obviously, the title track, that was originally in my top 10, but when it came down to it, I just like some other songs better. That's a beautiful song, all right? Ground Control to Major Tom, people. How about Cygnet Committee off that same album? And Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed, very cool song. The rest of that album is really mellow, kind of folky. I like it. I'm not nuts about the rest of the album. That, to me, is like, of the major albums that come after, it's one of the weaker ones, but it's still fun. From the Man Who Sold the World, how about All the Madmen? Yeah, I love that a lot. That's, again, sits just outside my top 10. Black Country Rock, another great heavy rocker. Run and Gun Blues, Savior Machine, the title track, The Man Who Sold the World, Haunting. It's great stuff. And how about the Supermen? All great tunes. It's such a great album. From Hunky Dory, obviously Changes, right? I dig Changes. Oh You Pretty Things, very cool song. Queen Bitch, the Boulay Brothers, awesome. And how about that kind of like, I guess it was like a session track or whatever, Bombers. That's a fun tune as well. From the Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, a groundbreaking album, a great album. So many great tunes. In fact, what I do with my honorable mentions is I put like stars next to the ones that are really highlighted from those albums. 5 Years is great. Starman, obviously. I wanted that to be in my top 10. Like you said, you can't fit everything. It Ain't Easy, great tune. Hang On to Yourself. Title track, Ziggy's, that was in my original top 10. And I love it. I know everybody loves it, but I like some other songs better, so out it goes. Suffragette City, another tune I love quite a bit. Rock and Roll Suicide is great. That whole album is just great. From my beloved Aladdin Sane, how about Watch That Man? All right, another song that was in my original top 10 got booted in the end. The title track, Aladdin Sane. Panic in Detroit, another song that was in my top 10 originally. It's really amazing. I think more than any other top 10 songs list that I put together, I had the most movement on this one. Stuff coming and going constantly. It was just like, it really kind of drove me nuts. Time is a great tune. The Gene Genie, obviously, is a great song. Grinning Soul. How about Diamond Dogs? I like Diamond Dogs a lot, too. Title track is great. The Sweet Thing. Sweet is awesome. That Sweet Thing Candidate and Sweet Thing Reprise. Gorgeous tune. Gorgeous, lengthy, sweet, whatever you want to call it. Rebel Rebel, obviously, is a great song. We Are the Dead, I love a lot. Okay. 1984 was in my original top 10. I absolutely love 1984. Haunting tune, all right? Very kind of, the lyrics are great because it kind of like foreshadowed shit to come, awesome stuff. Big Brother's a great tune. From Young Americans, I like Young Americans. I'm not as big on that album as some of the other ones, but the title track is great. Fascination is a killer tune. Right is a great song. Somebody Up There Likes Me. And how about Fame? I dig Fame a lot. That's really funky kind of. I love the kind of the soul vibe of that album. But some of the tracks just kind of meander a little for me, but there's some definite highlights like the ones I mentioned. The only other one from Station to Station I wanted to mention is Golden Years. Dig that a lot. Okay, the rest of my favorites are in the top 10. Low is a killer album, but for me, Low and Heroes and Lodger were very unique albums in that they're albums that you take kind of. All right, Tyler, got some new toys for Christmas. So, Low, Heroes, and Lodger, kind of like you have to take them as a whole. Like almost all three of them, you got like a handful of really great but short, vocal tracks, and you got all those really cool like instrumental electronic ambient pieces. Brian Eno played a big part in these albums. So I had a hard time kind of like picking out tracks to include because I just like them all. Like from Low, Speed of Life, Breaking Glass, What in the World, Always Crashing in the Same Car, Be My Wife is Killer. And then, you've got the Warzawa, Art Decade, Weeping Wall, and Subterraneans, instrumental pieces, although Subterraneans has a little bit of vocals in it, but it's mostly instrumental. Low is a very cool album. Heroes, too. Beauty and the Beast is great. That's a really good kind of standalone track. Joe the Lion is cool. Sons of the Silent Age. And then you got some instrumentals. You got Sense of Doubt and Nicole, however they say that. And then The Sacred Life of Arabia is a really cool vocal piece. Blackout. So, some great songs on there. From Lodger, how about Fantastic Voyage and Red Sails? And DJ. DJ was actually in my early top 10. I love DJ. That's a really great tune. And Look Back in Anger. Again, those three albums are very, very cool. You got to almost play them back to back to back. They all really fit well together. Obviously, the Berlin Trilogy. Scary Monsters and Super Creeps. I really agonized over not putting any of those songs in my top 10 because there's some great, great tracks on there. But, in the end, you like what you like, better or worse than others, right? Scary Monsters is awesome. Ashes to Ashes is great. Fashion, I love Fashion. Teenage Wildlife is great. Scream Like a Baby. And how about Because You're Young? You got some great rhythm guitar work from Pete Townsend in that song. I love Because You're Young. But it's, I agonize. That's I think the one album, that and Aladdin Sane, where I really want, and Ziggy, I guess, too, where I wanted to include more songs from, but you can't fit everything, right? You got to make some choices, and it just turns out those other 10 songs I just kind of like better, but it doesn't mean I dislike any of these by any means. From Let's Dance, Modern Love, great tune. China Girl is awesome. Another song I really wanted to squeeze in my top 10. Let's Dance, the title track, Ricochet, great stuff on there. The Tonight album, not a huge fan of that album, but you know what? Blue Jeans is a great song. Neighborhood Treat is a great song. Tumble and Twirl is fun. The rest of it, Never Let Me Down, not a big fan of that album either, but Day In, Day Out, cool tune. Time Will Crawl, cool tune. Title track's not too bad either. I'm going to skip ahead. Again, those other albums in between I don't have. I'm not including the Tin Machine stuff because that was a different beast. That was not Bowie solo. That was a different, fully fledged band. Pretty good stuff. Not a huge fan of Tin Machine. I think it worked to an extent, but I'm not going to include them here. I'm going to fast forward to the Heathen album, which is the last Bowie solo album that I bought. Squeaky over here likes Heathen. Slow Burn from Heathen is a great tune. Cactus, Afraid. I Took a Trip on a Gemini Spacecraft I love. That's really cool. And the title track, Heathen, is great. All right, so a lot of really great tunes. It's mind-boggling how many great songs. Again, I think one of those artists that you just kind of take for granted just how many strong tracks and songs that he's had throughout his career. So let's recap my top 10. Number 1, Station to Station from the album of the same name. Number 2, The Width of a Circle from The Man Who Sold the World. Number 3, Moon Age Daydream from Ziggy Stardust. Number 4, Heroes from the album of the same name. Number 5, TVC-15 from Station to Station. Number 6, Cracked Actor from Aladdin Sane. Number 7, Life on Mars from Hunky Dory. Number 8, Cat People Putting Out Fire from Let's Dance. Number 9, Stay from Station to Station. And number 10, She Shook Me Cold from The Man Who Sold the World. There you have my David Bowie top 10 songs. Again, these are my favorite 10 songs. I'm not saying these are the best David Bowie songs of all time. So if you're new to David Bowie, these are just kind of my recommendations, but I'm not saying these are the best. You'd have to go and listen to determine which are your favorites. So visit us on the web at www.catranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're on YouTube all the damn time. What do we got coming up? We got some new product show reviews. We're going to review some new CDs that have come out recently. Still catching up on some late 2019 stuff, so that'll be coming up over the next couple days. We got some top 10 songs, best to worst albums, all sorts of things in the pipeline, so stay tuned. My favorite album covers, rants, a lot of stuff. So I'm going to try and bring you content as often as possible. If we don't get to you daily, we're going to try and do as best we can. But you'll at least see us 4 or 5 times a week easily, all right? So we'll see you again real soon. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.